In this tutorial, we're going to look at remediating a basic form. Here we have a registration form, just a sample registration form that I created for this exercise. A couple things to be mindful of when you're creating forms is the formatting, how you lay out items. I've optimized this one for remediation as a PDF. The big thing here is that I have the information it's going to ask for, the prompt, on the left side in text, followed by on the right, the underline or space in which the form field will ask. Acrobat Pro is very good at understanding this layout for a form field. It tends to, when you do the prepare form, it tends to understand the structure very well and place the form fields in the right place. That saves a lot of work in tags. A lot of times people will have forms that are made a little bit differently. We see forms example that are set in tables or with a line and the prompts for what to put in each of the fields underneath. Those tend to be a lot more problematic in the remediation side and the tags. If you can lay out your forms with the prompt here and the field on the right, it's normally easier. We'll probably run into that specifically when we get into these spots here that require checkboxes that have the space on the left and the prompt on the right, or we may not. Acrobat Pro is a pretty smart application anymore when it comes to dropping form fields. We'll just see it as we go. The first thing is I'm going to open up all tools. And remember, it's always good to start with an accessibility check. So I'm going to do View More, go down to Prepare for Accessibility, and we're going to do a check. Remember, we don't have to modify anything here. We just want to start check. And we can see all the issues, and all the issues likely stem from it not being a tagged PDF. It's an untagged PDF. So if somebody were to, if this was a form somebody needed to download to fill out for a scholarship or something like that, they probably wouldn't be able to do it. They certainly wouldn't be able to do it on their computer. It would have to be handwritten out, and obviously someone's not going to be able to do that if they can't see the form physically, right? So for this to be accessible, this is a question I get every so often is, if it shows as accessible, and it's not a fillable form basically, or if it doesn't, or if it passes the checker and it doesn't have form fields to fill out, is it accessible? Well, not really. They can read it, or they can have it read to them by the screen reader, but they can't actually fill it out. Someone else is going to have to fill it out for them. So we need to make this an interactive fillable form in order for that compliance to be met. So go ahead and close this up, close up the checker here. And the first thing we're going to want to do is use a prepare form. So I'm going to click the back arrow on the accessibility tool set, and we are going to find prepare form. And that's how we're going to move forward with this. When I click prepare form, it's going to give me sort of a small options menu. We don't really have to worry about any of the options here. We're just going to click create form. And you will see that it'll auto fill in all those spaces. It will essentially build the fillable field. This is called a fillable field. And you'll see that they have text inside of them that reflects the name piece on the left in this case. That's because it's assuming that what it's asking for is this text on the left, like I was saying earlier. That's a good thing. So it's matched all the way through here. Guess it saw many, home phone, mobile phone. Scrolling down, it looks like Acrobat Pro has grabbed the indicator on the right. That's a good thing, because sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but it's gotten better at understanding these sort of checkboxes that occur on the left side. And it's got a signature line. Note this little orange call out here in the upper left. That's indicating that that's a signature box. That's good. And we've got a date field. Okay. So this is a good start. It hasn't dropped any form fields anywhere they shouldn't go. and it hasn't not recognized any that should have a field in it. So this is a very good start to this document. If I go over on the right side here, fields, page 1, I'm going to do, using the arrow button, a click down through the document. Effectively, what we have here is we have all the form fields as they're labeled here. And this is the same thing as reading order, but it's for the form fields specifically. You want the form fields to be in the order in which a person needs to interact with them on the form. Sometimes the order can be off. So to check the order, this is basically tab order. Every time they hit tab, it would go to a new field, right? So we want to have first name selected, and we want to manually go down with our arrow key, our down arrow key, to make sure that the order that it shows here is the order in which it's going to present these form fields to the user. First name would be first, last name, my WShoe ID, email address, guess, if so how many, home phone, mobile phone. So it's doing okay so far. Faculty, staff, and student. Actively volunteer, flexible, free weekend. I can provide my own transportation, the signature box, and date. The order is perfect. No need to add or remove anything there. So we know our form fields are in the good place. Now we need to go through the form fields and apply tooltips to them. The screen reader will read the tooltip to the user so that the user knows what information to place in each space. Of course, that seems obvious because it has first name and a blank right after first name, right? Technically. But in order to pass the checkers, it has to have a tooltip explaining what's being asked there, because sometimes they'll have an indicator, a prompt for something here, and the tooltip may say something different in some situations. So our next step is we're going to start looking in these and seeing what the tooltips say. We're going to go to the first name fillable field box that we have here. We're going to double click on it. That opens text field properties. That's what we want to get into to check our tooltips and such. The name corresponds to just the general name of the form field in the document. It's an identifier, so to speak. It's not going to be read to the user. The tooltip, however, will be. So what we can see here, and I can move this around, just grab the top bar and move it, is that first name indicates here. The tooltip is first name. So what it's going to do is it's going to read first name to them. It's almost going to be like a stutter. I don't really want to do that, and I want it to be a more descriptive indicator of what they need to do with this form field. So I might highlight that tooltip and change that to read enter first name here. Okay. There's an appearance setting. This would be important if we manually had to add form fields in this document. We didn't in this one, but in advanced, we will end up doing that. Note the font size. The font size on anything that somebody types into should always be set to auto. We'll get into that a little more detail when we do the more complicated form. For now, we're just going to stick over here on general, and we're going to fix all the tooltips throughout the document here. So I don't have to close this box. I can leave it open, and I'll just click last name. Here says name, last name. The tooltip can be changed to enter last name here. And you can probably see the pattern I'm building up here. I'm going to click on my WShoe ID. Enter my WShoe. Let's get a cap there. My WShoe here. Email address. Enter email address here. Guests. Guests is, will you have guests? So this is a yes or no answer. So we go enter yes. We can do enter yes or no as to whether or not you will have guests. So that is a little different than the others. Basically, we're telling them to put yes or no here instead of just enter guests, because that's actually asking them, will you have guests? If so, how many? If you will have guests, enter how many guests there will be. So these two are a little bit different. This one is binary asking yes or no. This one is asking how many they will have. So we want to be sure to be clear on the tooltips for those to indicate that's what we're asking for. Home phone. Enter home phone number here. If you wanted to be specific about a format, what we could do at the end is do format colon parentheses 123 parentheses space 456 hyphen 7890. There's some fancier ways that you could do the home phone format on the formatting tab, but in general, on a text thing like this, you can also do it like this. Mobile phone, same thing. Enter mobile phone number here. Format, give it the same format. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Okay, that clears up the form fields for the early fields. And next up, we're going to be looking at checkboxes. For these items below, there are variations on checkboxes. The first set is they have to select one option of 3, not multiple, not none, but one option. For the section under, they can select anything and all that they want to. All the options below that describe your current situation would be a checkboxes type thing. You could also use checkboxes for this select below, whether you are faculty, staff, or student. But checkboxes would allow them to check more than one option. And people might accidentally do that. Checkboxes are on the whole easier to set up. So if you're more comfortable with that, you could absolutely do that. It just won't eliminate ones that they might click by accident. But we'll set these up with checkboxes for now. For ease's sake, because you may not end up working with radio buttons a lot, but radio buttons are the ones that you would use to make them select one of the options. We'll put that in the advanced form tutorial later. For now, we're just going to stick with checkboxes for these. And if I look over here on the right side, here we go, faculty, arrow down, staff, student, actively volunteer, have a flexible or free, I can provide my own transportation. You might note here that these look the same as the other form fields in the menu. I want to call attention to what this icon is here. The icon to the left of the faculty thing is a T and a little box. The T icon, if we go look at the form components, these are the fields that you could insert on the page. That icon corresponds to text field. Text field is a field in which someone types in it for the information. In other words, all these things that are checkboxes are actually set as text fields for people to type in. That is wrong. They need to be checkboxes instead. So when the system automatically, through prepare form, puts form fields in places, it will always default to text boxes, to text fields. And in this case, that's wrong. So we have to change what they are. So the first thing I'm gonna do is delete them out. And I can select each one and just use my delete key to get rid of it. Select the first one, and you'll see them disappear off of the side here, like so. And now we want to have checkboxes in their place. We go over to add form components. I'm gonna select checkbox. And you'll see when I move into the regular field or the regular document here, I have a box prompted and ready to go. And what I'll do is just center that on the line somewhere, or place it on the line somewhere. I'm not exactly centering it. We'll deal with its layout a little bit later. And I'll select it. And note that it continues to give me boxes. It doesn't stop doing it. It used to stop doing it, and then you'd have to go back and forth and hit checkbox every time in an older version. They've updated that to where it will continue to provide the prompt, and we can get rid of that prompt when we want to. We'll look at that a little bit later. I'm going to select the next one, move down and drop one on the third. If you look over here, we're populating checkboxes as we go. And get it somewhere right there. Move down for number 5 and move down for number 6. Okay. And we don't need any more checkboxes, but we still have the prompt. I'm going to hit escape twice, and it will stop creating that prompt. So we've got checkboxes in place that we can use for the user to do that. We can adjust these checkboxes if we want to not have the extra space for the line. We just want to come in here, and you see how I've got a prompt. I can left click and drag it over. And you may want to zoom so you can be a little more exact. You can go up and view zoom. Maybe I want, 120. Select the second one, stretch it across. And again, I don't have to do this, but individuals who can see the form, if all of the fields seem to match up really well, it'll look good to them, like so. If I wanted to, I could select all of the boxes. I'll select the first one, hold shift, left click the second, hold shift, left click the third, and just go down doing that. And you'll see up here in the prepare form tools, I now have align, center, match size, distribute. I want to match size first of all. The middle button will match the width of all of them in case I was off in any of them. You see some of them changed a little bit. And then I can align them all. I can do left align, center align, or vertical align, and right align. I'll do left. Okay, so now they're all in a line based on the left margin, and they're all the same width, so we know that they're all equal. Now, when you add form fields to a document the way we just had to manually do here, there's a couple things. One is that they don't have names and tooltips. We'll have to adjust that as we go. But the other, I would say, important thing that we need to look at here is it always adds new form fields to the bottom of the list on your fields item. So now if I click left name and I arrow down through them, you'll see that our new checkboxes are not in the correct order for presenting in the document. We need to move them to be in the right reading order. So we can do that over here by adjusting the order in the fields pane. And I can left click. For example, we know that checkbox 7, which is faculty, we know it's that because it's highlight, goes under mobile phone. I can come over to it, left click on it, hold left click and drag it like this. The line that you see indicates the placement, sort of a preview of the placement, if you will, and I can drop it. And now after mobile phone, I have faculty. You can also move multiple items at the same time. We know that the rest of them need to be under faculty, so I can go down like on checkbox 8 here, select it, hover my cursor over checkbox 12, and like I was doing with multiple tags in the previous session, I can hold shift while holding shift, left click to select multiple items and just drag them as a group where I need them to be. And now, if I look, they're in the right order. So arranging the order of fields is pretty easy. So now we need to go through and adjust the tooltips and names. So I'm going to double click on the first one. We've got our checkbox properties. The name of it, we want to give it the same name as whatever it's asking for. Faculty tooltip. Note that when I clicked the tooltip, it kicked down to the next item. It will do that sometimes. I believe it did that to me a few times on the previous document when I was doing something other. You want to watch out for that because if you aren't aware that it's doing that, you're going to assign incorrect tooltips for form fields. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to click back up on the faculty. It's just a strange bug that Acrobat Pro has. And select below whether you are faculty, staff, or student. Tooltip, select if you are faculty. Okay. The staff one, just put staff. See, it kicked it down again. You want to be mindful of that. Select if you are staff. Third one, student. Tooltip, kicked it down again. Oops. Sometimes you'll do that. You'll click it and you'll accidentally go outside of it. You can go back in by clicking the form field, or if it still has the fields pane in it, it can go wait and click the right field there. Open this student. Select if you are a student. Okay. Now we come to the three underneath. Select all the options below that describe your current situation, and note that it's applying the names down as we go and replacing these things that have checkbox in the indicator. Next one down. And name actively volunteer. Actively volunteer. You want to look for sort of a key statement in the sentence as to what it's asking them to verify. Actively volunteer would be here. I'll call it actively volunteer as the name. And it kicked it down one. We don't want it to do that. So click back up. And in this case, it's going to read this text to them before they check the checkbox. So I can actually say select if true. And I'll do that for all three of these. Select if true. I'm going to copy that tooltip because we're going to use it throughout the other two. I have a flexible or free weekend schedule. Call this flexible or free weekend. Tooltip, it kicked it down. Click it back up, paste the tooltip. Go to the third one, provide my own transportation to and from events. Have transportation. And the tooltip, kicked it down to signature, click back up. Select if true. Okay, we're going to save the document here. And we're going to go, let's see. It's asking for the folder. That's fine. And just select basic forms, save, replace. Basically overwriting the previous version of it. And we're ready to continue down to the signature field. That brings us to the signature box down here. The signature boxes are a space where a person can place their digital signature. A lot of times they're doing it the first time they click on the field and it has them create one. It's not something they actually type in though. So it's fine as it is, as long as it's a signature box. We can click it and see name, signature, tooltip, signature, that's fine. Date. Date is something that they enter into here. It says name, date. I like to be specific if I can. This one doesn't have another date field, so I might change this to date form filled out. date form completed, tooltip. And on tooltip, I'm going to put enter date of form completion. And I'm going to put format : MM/day DD, it's day /YYYY. And then I'm going to go over on the format tab. Format category, I'm going to select date. And it's going to give me this drop down menu. I'm going to select the corresponding month, day, year. And close. That one's okay. And I'm going to do one final check of the order. Click on first name and down arrow through it, just to make sure everything is in the logical order of presentation in the document. There we go. And that's all good to go. I'm going to save the document. And now we're going to start looking at working on our tags.